Well, Tesla had a good start this morning, and then it all fell apart. There was plenty of reasons for Tesla to continue its upward move to try to break through 265, and it did break through 265 for a brief moment. We'll talk about some of those stories because a pretty good morning. So kind of surprising that it's kind of backed off from those numbers. I can make an easy statement. I could easily prove that Tesla should be at all-time highs just from the six sources that are coming up, just six minor revenue sources and profit sources that are shortly going to be real within the next 18 months. Juniper, generation 2.5 and maybe 3.0, whatever the difference is. Full self-driving, robotaxi, cybercab, energy storage, and Optimus. I know that sounded like seven, but robotaxi and cybercab have a little thing between them like that. So anyway, that was six. So I'm still quite surprised with the power of the current move, even if it takes a little breather right now. I'd be very surprised not to have it continue back up later today, but I'm not going to be, as I mentioned yesterday, it is entirely possible that 265 will be a bridge too far and that we would see a back off, maybe even to the 225, 220 level. Even having said what I just did about the fundamentals, because, you know, these technical things, the fighting back and forth between those who want to take their profits and those who are still in the FOMO mood, sometimes you can't really explain it. In fact, I can't explain what just happened going from the 160s all the way to the 260s in a couple of weeks. Anyway, there are six developments. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. These six developments are not from some startup. You know, it's not like this is a company that has no history of execution. These are 18 months from now, 18 months is all it's going to take to have all six of those fully going forward. And in fact, a seventh one, the semi-truck, just slightly more than, maybe it will be within that 18 months that we'll start to see substantial numbers of semi-trucks rolling out. So that could be a seventh one. And this is also a company that's led by a guy who has almost a perfect track record of executing on what he says he's going to do. So yeah, you can make the argument that we should be at 410. You can make the argument that we're going to fall back to 225. And the question is, what's going to happen in between? Well, that's probably going to be mostly determined by these two upcoming meetings, one on the 23rd and one on 8/8. So what is the right price for it right now? Well, I'd say if 300 made sense a year ago, it makes sense now. And I'm still thinking that's probably where we get by the meeting on the 23rd. This is from Daniel Fong this morning. He says Elon's going to come out into the top tier of the heavyweight AI companies just because no one else has the ability or the will to stand up to their own power plants. I don't totally 100% understand that, but but it got a response from Jeff Bezos. No less than Jeff Bezos says, this is a full stack AGI integration play for Elon. Energy Tesla, data X and Starlink, compute X AI, robotics Tesla. And then he says, executing on high dimensional chess while everyone else just yaps. Wow, that's pretty significant praise coming from Jeff Bezos this morning. That alone should probably have caused the stock to go through 265 to 300. Elon Musk responds to that. He says the new Optimus design, which will be complete later this year, is something special. No, he didn't just say, oh, we'll see the next version. You got to pay attention to Elon's words, which again, this alone should be enough to be driving the stock crazy. The new Optimus design, which will be complete later this year, is something special. That is a big statement. I'm sure that Scott Walter and I will be talking about that in a few hours when I have my regular program with Scott. Well, then, if that's not enough good news, Reuters this morning is reporting that Goldman Sachs raised the firm's price, Tesla, the price target on Tesla to they raised the Goldman Sachs price target on Tesla to 248, Well, that's not a very high price target unless you know that it was 175. All right. So they're now saying 248. Is that why we're back down to 260? Anyway, but they raised it from 175. They kept a neutral rating on the shares. The firm updated its 2024 EPS estimate, including SBC, to $2.05 from $1.90. That's not a very big jump. And I think it's going to be way more than $2.05. Anyway, primarily reflecting higher deliveries and increased its multiple to reflect increased market multiples and investors being likely to be more forward-looking on FSD potential. While the firm continues to believe that Tesla is well-positioned for longer-term growth, given its strong position in the EV and clean energy markets, it expects weaker market conditions to weigh on earnings in the near to intermediate term and views the valuation as full. So they think 250 is it, except it's sitting at 260 and trying for 265. Morgan Stanley raised its valuation for Tesla's energy storage business, expecting a global surge in demand for power, driven by the artificial intelligence boom and the company's ability to grow its market share in the segment. Well, it's not just the energy storage business that's going to be booming and growing so fast. You also have to supply the energy for all these electric vehicles and other electrification projects as the world tries to move to electrification. And then in addition to all that, you've got the Bitcoin folks, all the folks that are trying to mine coin, they're putting a huge demand on the grid. So the brokerage lifted the value of the unit at $50 per share on its 300. I'm sorry, did I miss something here? So that was Goldman Sachs was the first one. This is now Morgan Stanley also raising their price. The Morgan Stanley lifted the value of the unit at $50 per share of its $310 price target. So it was rating the energy division at $36, and now it's raised it to $50 out of the total of 310. But it also reduced its forecast for Tesla's 2030 auto sales. It estimates that the profit generated from a fully utilized mega factory, which manufactures large storage batteries, is equal to that from selling 1 million Tesla vehicles. Let that sink in. Wait a minute, we need to put this quote, we need to turn this into a meme. They are making the comparison. 1 megafactory is equal to 1 million Tesla vehicles. Now, it depends on which vehicle. Are you talking about a Cybertruck? Are you talking about the new vehicle? Anyway, it's no wonder that investors are starting to consider the real possibility that Tesla Energy may be worth more than Tesla Auto. Whoa, they're listening to Elon's, but he said it like 2 years ago. Tesla shares have surged nearly 44% in the past 10 sessions, their longest streak in more than a year after a dour start to the year. Dour would be right. The daily trading turnover for Tesla shares overtook AI darling NVIDIA last week for the first time in 6 months. So they're trading more volume per day on average than NVIDIA. Oppenheimer said in a note on Tuesday, this is now the third one, Oppenheimer saying it expects to see Tesla's energy storage sales surpass $3 billion in the current quarter. Yep. But added that the value of its full self-driving AI platform is the key to whether shares will continue moving higher or begin to moderate again. Wow. In April, CEO Elon Musk said Tesla would likely launch full self-driving software this year, which would be a big profit generator. Well, Tesla deployed 9.4, they're saying, Tesla deployed 9.4 gigawatt hours of energy storage products in the second quarter of 2024, more than double that of the January period, January-March. Its products included the Powerwall home power backup system and the Megapack, meant for large-scale commercial projects. Energy storage and generation accounted for 6% of Tesla's 2023 revenue, and the rest came from the auto segment, basically. And then you'll have, of course, a very large, substantial jump in that percentage in the 2024 period. They don't say that. That's me saying that. All right. So that would, those three pieces of good news, in addition to the statement from Elon responding to Jeff Bezos, you'd think that the stock would be at 300 already this morning. Sawyer Merritt says, news, General Motors Mexico is partnering with Tesla. Okay. Let me read it again. General Motors Mexico is partnering with Tesla to build 1,000 charging points in Mexico. The companies intend to stimulate the development of EVs in the country. Okay. Elon Musk commenting this morning. He says version 12, this is the FSD version 12.5.x, whatever number, 12.5, whatever, will finally combine the city and highway software stacks. Well, that answers a lot of people's questions that were wondering. They thought 12.4 was going to have the combined stacks, but it won't be until 12.5. Well, this is Randy Kirk bringing you all kinds of good news this morning about Tesla, and yet the stock is off a little this morning. Selling on the news? No, I think it's just profit taking by those folks who have enjoyed a 44% run up in just a couple of weeks. So I'm not shocked at all by anything right now that the Tesla stock does. Well, I'm shocked, but I'm not. I was shocked, and now I'm no longer shocked. I guess that's what I was trying to say. So please hit like, subscribe, and notify. We have Scott Walter later this morning. You have got Jeff Lutz in the evening, helping to celebrate Good News Wednesday. And then, of course, I'd love to have you hit the Patreon like Robert H. did yesterday. Thank you, Robert H., for coming into the Patreon world. And by the way, I am now putting up original content or early content. I'm putting up stuff in Patreon that will either be early or different than what everybody else is seeing, if that matters to you. So it's only $3 or 5 or 10 if you'd like to get prizes. Remember, there are things you can get if you join Patreon. All right, all that information is down below in the description, so we don't need to go over it now. From the 𝐞𝐽𝐽𝐵 letter this morning, he says, what is happening here? The construction industry saw 4,613 layoff announcements in June, the most since the 2008 financial crisis. So that's in 1 month. The jump was even higher than the 4,200 job cut announcements in the 2020 pandemic. Layoff announcements surged by 20% year over year last month, the largest increase since September of 23. Meanwhile, 1.858 million Americans are now receiving jobless benefits, the most since 2021. That is the general, not the construction, okay? The U.S. labor market is weaker than it seems, and we've been saying that and saying that and saying that and saying that, although it isn't like horrible yet. Now, it might get horrible, but right now it isn't horrible, even though the government's been lying to us, even though we've been getting horrible stats, even though they keep revising those stats like crazy, and the revisions somehow don't make it into the headlines. The reality is we still have okay labor market out right now, or you'd be hearing about it, and you're not, okay? Yes, people may be taking 2 jobs. Yes, it might be that it's softer than it was, certainly than it was 6 or 8 months ago when it was crazy, okay? But it's not horrible yet. All right. I have not paid any attention at all. I'm sorry. Maybe you have. Let me know in the comments below if you have. I've never paid any attention to whether OPEC is any good at forecasting the economy. Maybe I should, though. They should be able to afford some really good economists. In any case, they're out this morning saying they believe that the world economy is in good shape for the next 18 months, expecting it to increase in the, around 2% per year, both for this year and next, although a little less for next year. All right, then we have this breaking news from breakingthenews.net. I've never heard of them before, but they happen to be the ones that were first to provide this information this morning. Wholesale inventories in the United States grew by 0.6 in May compared to the previous month and amounted to 901 billion, according to a report by the U.S. Census Bureau. Inventories fell by 0.5 in May. So I would say if you look at those 2 months together, if that's all you look at was the last 2 months of reporting, you have kind of a flat inventory situation, wouldn't you? But they're increasing in May. Meanwhile, but here's maybe more important, the sales of merchant wholesalers in May were up by 0.4% and up 1.9 annually. The May inventory sales ratio was 1.35 compared to 1.39 in May of last year. So I would say that is an okay report. Not great, not bad, an okay report on the inventories from the Census Department this morning. All right, so what's happening with markets now? Let's see. This is, by the way, breaking news from Sawyer Merritt, longtime investor Bill Gross. Tesla is acting like a meme stock. Okay, whatever, Bill Gross, whatever you say. Yes, all right. So Tesla right now still down this morning, down $1.67 at 260 and 66 cents. Again, it was as high. It was over 265 just moments ago. And then you've got by the way, the market is just really going up and down. It is flailing about, I guess, trying to prepare or position itself for tomorrow morning's report. So it is the Magnificent Seven is now all up except for Amazon and Tesla. But before it was all up. You've got the Dow Jones down now 0.1, I'm sorry, down 16. You've got the NASDAQ up 100. You've got the S&P up 15.65. You've got the these have the Cathie Woods have been down all morning. Now, again, it's all by small amounts, but 100% down across the board on the Cathie Woods, although some of them are beginning to curl upwards. I was just going to look at the curl. Yes, Tesla is beginning to curl upwards, also only down 152 now. Let's look at the percentages. You've got the Dow Jones down 0.05, NASDAQ up 0.53, S&P up 0.29, and right now Tesla is down 0.58%. All right, let's go. We'll come back to Tesla in a minute. We'd love to see even what happens over like a 3 or 4 or 5 minutes here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening with the bonds. I'm being fumble-fingered here. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Bonds this morning down. The 10-year is down 1.5 at 4.283, still well above my 4.25 breaking point. We have got the 2-year also exactly down 1.4, not exactly, 1.4 versus 1.5. So that inversion remains about in the same territory. And the 2-month down 0.2 of a basis point. So that inversion is all 100 and still about 108. Yeah, it might be a little bit less. Might be maybe that inversion might have shrunk just a little bit, but still 108 basis points. That's a lot. So I'm not really looking at it as being anything significant and unchanged really on the 10-year versus the 2-year. All right, let's look at oil. And by the way, the bonds being up yesterday, down a little now. Again, a little bit of movement, maybe just prepping itself for tomorrow when the CPI comes out. All right, we've got the oil prices up 0.21 on the Texas Intermediate, 4 cents on the Brent. So not a lot of action there after the OPEC announcement this morning saying that they're just kind of all staying the same over there, not making any changes in their plans. And you've got natural gas up 0.85 this morning. And then we've got gold up $20, back up to 2,387. That's a pretty strong move this morning, up 0.83. Silver up 0.54 at 31,225. Very strong move there for something that's already at its high. And then copper picking up 1.28 at 463. Starting to look like a move back towards 5. We'll see what happens. We have got Bitcoin unchanged, now down, but unchanged. $5.52. Anything now up 11. Boy, it's a boom, boom, back and forth. Can't even keep track of it. But at 57,788. You've got the dollar is looking a little higher this morning, but not much. It was down earlier. Now it's a little bit up. And then that is the full list. Let's go ahead and go back and take one last look at Tesla. We've got Tesla now down a full percent, down $2.60 at 259.71. So the little curl that we saw a minute ago has evaporated and now it's curling down. Anyway, would you love to hit like now and subscribe and notify? So Scott Walter later this morning. You know, there's always the possibility that I substitute the interview that I have from yesterday, from Monday with Brian White, depending exactly on which one I think is more timely. But generally speaking, it's going to be Scott Walter this morning. And then we've got Jeff Lutz, who missed last week. So we've got so much to talk to Jeff about. That'll be later tonight. So with all that said, it has been, oh yeah, there was a video I did yesterday about where the market is right now, about this big increase and stuff. I did that yesterday in the middle of the day. That is still a really good watch. I'll put that card right up here. All right, that's it. And it's been great talking to you.